So good morning, everyone, the few we are here. I'm going to present to you something I worked on within the XAIDA project, within the package 8, with Davide and Mathieu Rack, and also Stella Bourdin, who's the postdoc at Cambridge, Oxford, I don't remember. So it's about using ensembles of random forests for tropical cyclone tracking. Just a few words of context about the tropical cyclones. You need several conditions to have a TC genesis. It's tropical cyclone genesis. Sorry, I try to move that. Okay, and so first we need warm sea surface temperature for convective array potential energy, low wind shear, and strong humidity. So these are the basic conditions for a tropical cyclone. Then you need also tropical depression. So it's areas with several storms with wind revolving around them. And with the adequate Coriolis force, you end up with a tropical cyclone. So basically, you have the creation of a vortex around the depression with, which is fueled by warm, humid air from the ocean, and it starts to revolve. And it's basically counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. These tropical cyclones usually last for several days to a couple of weeks, and they are self-sufficient because they gather they gather energy from the surface ocean, so from the warm water, and there's just dissipates when they encounter a colder surface of ocean or land, and which makes lose its energy source. So in the context of, so why do we want to detect tropical cyclone in climate data? Because we have an incomplete theoretical understanding of what is a tropical cyclone, which is also limited by our observation time span. So to study the changes of tropical cyclone, we rely on simulations, climate simulations. So we need to track them in the observation and the simulations. Usually we find in the literature two types of cyclone tracking scheme. So we have the ones based on physical and dynamical properties of TCs, which relies on user-prescribed thresholds, which are quite rigid and need numerous variables that are not always available in all the models. And the second category is use the deep learning approaches, which needs a large amount of data and computing power, which can be prone to overfitting, and so also prone to, which can also hinder the transferability to climate models. And it's also a bit contradictory because we need a lot of data and we have very few actually tropical cyclone data. So it's a bit contradictory to use something, it's my opinion at least. So here I want to use a very known algorithm, which is random forest, and to track the cyclone with a limited number of variables. So first, I'll focus on two basins, so the Eastern North Pacific and the Northern Atlantic basins. And you have the hybrid tracks database, which are basically satellite-based observation of cyclones. We have them over a period of 1980 to 2021. And for the I use also a reanalysis database to detect. So I have the observation IB tracks, and I want to detect the cyclones within the ERA5 database, from which I use the mean sea level pressure, the relative vorticity, the geopotential thickness, and total column water, and the wind speed. So basically, they characterize a cyclone. So the mean sea level pressure is the eye of the cyclone, the position. The wind speed is the intensity of the cyclone. The relative vorticity is the vortex of the cyclone. So first, from my observation, I filtered them given two thresholds of mean cell level pressure and wind. So these are based on the way to categorize cyclones. So the threshold are pressure is 1,006 hectopascal, and for the wind is about 16 meter per second. So within my database, every time step, every point I have these two threshold met, I coded 1, and the rest is coded 0. So I have one problem is potentially I have multiple tracks occurring at the same time. So what I do, so in time and space, quite close actually. So in order to detect them separately, I just tied my areas within 20 by 10 degree boxes. So I just show you 1 out of 2, but because we don't see anything if I plot them every. But you have to imagine here 20 boxes and here 16 boxes. And within each boxes, instead of considering the whole data field, so I only work over the tropical cyclone season, so June to November. I just take these 4 statistics, so it means standard deviation, minimum, maximum within one box of the 5 physical variables. So I have a set of 20 predictors per time step per box. So what I have at the end is a table with where I put every data from every boxes every time step. So I have a set of 5 to 600,000 set of 20 predictors, which I scale because they are very different in terms of ranges. So here I use one particular implementation of what is a random forest. It's based on the Mallet et al. Paper 2012, sorry. So it's a way to robustly estimate a probability for each time step, the probability to have or not to have a cyclone. So each tree gives you a probability that you are aggregating from the here 500 trees I've used for this case. I also used two metrics to give some physical interpretation of what I have from our random forest. The first is the Gini importance. So if you consider a J class of probabilities, the probabilities of choosing an item Y is pi, so the probability associated is pi within each classes. And the probability of miscategorization is the sum of pk, which are 1 minus the sum of 1 minus pi, sorry. And in each division, each time I do division in my tree, what I want to minimize is that value. So they have the larger probabilities within each category. So here I have just 2 categories, but it's generalizable for n categories. And I look at the feature of importance of Xj for predicting Y. So it's basically the sum of impurity decrease. So when I grew my tree, it's the amount of decrease this value within the whole data set through the 3 growing. So it's the first metric. The second one is Shapley additive explanation values. So here is the average contribution of predictor XJ, a specific outcome of the random forest, given every combination of predictors. So what I plot are actually the shape-based partial dependence plot. So I have these shape values for each predictors, and I plot it against the physical values of that predictor. So which gives me the within the range of the predictors how important it is to predict, to explain the probability. I have a cross-validation setup. So for each basin, I have that scheme. So basically, it's 42 years, and I divide it in 5-fold of 35 years for training and 7 years of tests. So for the first fold is these 7 years, sorry, in blue. and I just shift 1 year for the other period. So it's a way to overcome the difference of quality in the observation during the whole period, and also the eventual trend you have in area 5 for the different predictors. So somehow I mix everything up. I have an unbalanced data problem here. I have way more non-cyclonic TC-free situation than TC situations. So I have to determine that ratio when I put it in the random forest. Here, also to test this TC-free TC ratio, I use an ensemble of 100 random forests to see if I have some large spread, or is it not really a problem. And the final test, the final evaluation of the tracker is based on the average probability coming from the 100 random forest. So how do I reconstruct my track? So at first, if I have a TC probability above 0.5, I say that I have a cyclonic situation within my box. And the location, I just go to the minimum sea level pressure within a given box. And then I also allow sometimes you can have gap because the probability is below 0.5 and it go up to above 0.5 at some point. So I allow some 24-hour gaps and a maximum of 450 kilometers. So then I have to match every reconstructed tracks to the observed tracks. So how I do that? So if I can match every point of a detected track to an observed one, I say this track is a hit. Then false alarm is one have none of the point of a given D, the given detected track they can match to an observed one. An observed one, and I declare a miss if none of for a given observed track I cannot match it to any detected track. So I have these three just simple statistics within my detected tracks. And to evaluate the quality of my tracker, I have three metrics. So the Matthew collection coefficient, so just to assess the quality of the binary classification, because here we have a basic binary classification problem. So it's a ratio between the true positive, true negative, false positive, false negative. You can somehow interpret it as like a correlation, basic correlation. The closer to zero, the better it is. And then two metrics only related to the whole tracks then. So the probability of detection, which is a ratio between the hit and the sum of the hit and miss, and then the false alarm rate, which is the ratio between the false alarms and the sum of false alarm and hits. So first, what I did is, here's for the North Atlantic Basin, I've done my 100 random forests for each ratio. So here, what I tested here is, I tested the ratio as I took the number of zeros, 10 times the number of ones, 15, 20, 25, and the whole data sets. And I look at these three metrics, so MCC, POD, and FAR. Actually, they are very, very close, given the ratio does not really change. Well, it's very close, around 0.6075 for 10 to 25. And then I look at also the POD and FAR, and somehow it's, if you decrease the probability of detection, so the ability to track a cyclone, you also, it's the other way around. If you have a good ability to detect tracks, but you also have the possibility to generate too many false alarms. So it's almost linear. So somehow I had to decide which one with given this metric. So I choose something in the middle because I don't find a proper way to choose the ratio. So I choose 25 because I had something like performance which is quite similar to the tracker existing in the literature. but I had a way lower false alarm rate. So this was my decision. I took my decision given based on that. And for the two basin, I have these metrics, the POD and FAR for calibration and validation. So validation are the blue years, so the test years, the track reconstruction over the test years. So I can have something around 77%, and of course I'm below 10% for both basin. Okay. So this is the setup we use for the other. So 25 is the ratio I use for the analysis then for the detected tracks. So here I just showed you some example of tracks I have detected from with my random forest. So you can see that even with very particular tracks with this kind of loops here, you can actually do a quite nice job in reconstructing the track. And so for both basin, here you have for the Eastern North Pacific. And so here I wanted to look at the tracks I missed and the false alarm for the North Atlantic Basin, for instance. So on the left, you have the probability given by random forest on the top for the misses, the missed tracks. The middle panel is about the minimum pressure, and the lower panel is about the maximum wind. So you see that the probability are quite low on the top panel. So this is why you miss them, because actually you don't reach this 1005 or 16 meter per second threshold. So you're below in general. You are above or around this threshold in general. And here you are above this 16 meter per second for the wind. So these tracks are missed because ERA5 is not able to actually capture those tracks. So it's not a problem for them first, more a problem of ERA5 here. For the false alarm, you see that they are more located here in the middle of the domain and closer to the coastal area. So basically, these are the developing area, and here is the landfall area. So this area, the cyclones are quite weak over this area. So it's why we sometimes we generate false alarms also over these areas. So here I wanted to just focus on this example that you have one among the misses, you have one red track, which has a high probability. Also, the wind and pressure values which are quite good for a cyclone. So I just wanted to show this example because sometimes we are not able to track these cyclones if you have another one which occurs very close and almost at the same time. So actually what I have was here what I detect is this strong cyclone rather than this one, which is actually quite not that strong compared to this one. So this is the only case I miss a track that is actually tracked. So okay. I'm sure I cleared, but you can have some question after. And then I want look into the some statistics of the track. So here on the left, we have the histogram of the track by durations, given the durations. So for observations in purple, the miss one in green, the false alarm in red, and the hit in blue. So what we can see here is that the tracker is quite good. One is quite with strong and long cyclones, but it has more difficulties for the short ones. So basically, you have the misses in green, which are quite the short ones, and as well, it's kind of the same category for the false alarms. And I looked into the probabilities associated by random forest, so given by random forest for those tracks. And what you can see is that hits are quite high, so close to 1. The false alarms are okay above 0.5, but still they are not that high as the hits. So they have they are positive, but well, they are false alarms, so not that close to 1. And the myths are, well, what I show you on the map before. So basically, they are very close to 0. So the missed ones are missed and called, sorry. So yeah, here. And I've done this same analysis, but over this plot, which is the minimum of sea level pressure against the wind. So the wind is x-axis and the y-axis is the pressure, the minimum pressure. We have the same for populations, the hit, the false alarm, the miss, and the observation in purple. So what you can say is that in ERA5, you don't reach the same intensity as the observation for the wind. So you barely reach a category 3 cyclone, while you have category 5s in observation. So this is the first problem with ERA5 actually. And then if you look at the pressure, you reach a category 4 for ERA5, and well, while you have ERA category 5 for pressure. So when you look at the tract, the reconstructed tract are here is the blue, red, and green. And if you look at the false alarm in red, so they are quite close to this, to the threshold, where I filter to say it's a cyclone or not. The greens are below, so in this quadrant here, so meaning that they are not well reproduced by ERA5, so it's basically the same information represented differently. And so the hits are quite okay. And then I wanted to look into the predictors to see which one are the most important to detect or not a cyclone. So the top 6 are the relative vorticity, the maximum wind, the mean sea level pressure. So it's the same for both basin, top 3. So basically, they are characterizing the vortex, the intensity, and the cyclone eye location, which is quite reassuring. Actually, we are actually detecting the important feature for the cyclones. And then I looked into the shape value. So this is what I explained. So you have this physical variable in the x-axis and the shape values associated to that physical variables, and you can see that its contribution increases with its intensity, which is quite logical. And then at some point, when you reach a certain value, its contribution does not increase; it stays stable. So this is for the relative vorticity. For the wind, the maximum wind, you can see that it increases with the wind intensity, the maximum wind speed. And then even at some point, its contribution decreases because somehow other variables are also contributing there. So it means that when you reach a certain value of the physical variables, its contribution does not increase because you're in a cyclonic situation. Here for the mean sea level pressure, so you have to read it the other way around. The contribution increases when the mean sea level pressure decreases because it's the minimum pressure, which is important for tropical cyclones. And so here, it's the summary of the basic experiment. So this is the same table here on the left I showed you before. And then I realized an ablation experiment. So basically I removed some predictors from the random forest to see if I lose some capabilities of detecting cyclones or not. So here I just kept the top 6 predictors from this figure for each basin. And what you have here is you have the same performance in terms of detection. So 75, 77, 76. So it's almost the same as when you keep all the predictors. But you can see that you lost some performance. So you have a higher false alarm rates when you don't have these least important predictors. So somehow, even if they are not important to predict the cyclone, they are important to control, so not to make too many false alarms. So you cannot remove those predictors just randomly because they are not important in the predictions. Somehow they control also the non-cyclonic situations. And then I realized another experiment. So basically here what I did, so on the left is the main experiment. So what I did is to use the calibration over the Northern Atlantic and reconstruct my track over the Eastern North Pacific. So you can see that you have the same, almost the same probability of detection, but you degrade the false alarm. So you have more false alarm in one case for the Eastern North Pacific. In the case of Northern Atlantic, you decrease the probability of detection, but you have the same performance in terms of false alarms. So you have some specificities given the basin. So maybe because usually what is done in the literature, so you have one tracker for all the basin at the same time. So maybe considering each basin separately could be also a good thing because this shows some specificity from each basin. And then, so this is something which has been under review. I have the review, I have to answer them right now, but it's available online. You have the preprint online. And now I'm actually working on how to use that for tracking cyclones, but in climate models. So the idea is to use trackers, the random forest trained over ERA5, and to use it to track directly to track cyclones in CMIP6 models. So basically, I use a subsample of CMIP6, which is IRS map. They have the same physical package as CMIP6, but higher resolution. And I'm working on two problems here. So that there are transferability issues for climate projection due to mismatch between ERA5 and the models, and also due to climate change signal. So I'm currently working on how a bias correction approach of CMIP6 model can overcome these issues. Something going on right now. So thank you. It's all for me.
Thank you, Pradeebane. Feel free to ask any question to Pradeebane if you want to.
Team.
Yeah, Pradeebane, thanks a lot. Very nice work, presentation. Yeah, I guess I have some questions more on the method side.
Okay.
Like you showed that what is it, 7-fold cross validation, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. So and then you're using that validation to tune hyperparameters. Is that right? And
I don't actually here. I've not shown anything about the hyperparameters. I've just used this to determine my ratios. So sorry. Yeah, here it's to determine the 0-1 ratio. But I've tested different hyperparameter tuning. So the depth of the trees. And other parameters, but in the number of elements in the end nodes or some things like that. So basically, I use the default settings because when I increase the depth of my trees, I have overfitting. So this is not necessarily a good thing. The validation performance decreased a lot. And when I increase, for instance, the number, it's the same thing if I increase or decrease the number of elements in the final node. So at the end, the default parameters were quite good, actually, to my problem.
Right. Okay, so you don't do any hyperparameter tuning, and therefore you don't need a test data set.
But what I tested is actually I did some test experiment. If you look at the end, what I did is to use the calibration for one basin and use it on the other one. So somehow So I had here is the calibration of a Northern Atlantic that I used to reconstruct tracks.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Okay, so you train validate on one
yes, I
one
use the whole
basin,
data.
and you
The
test
whole,
on another basin. Okay, that is
yeah, exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, that's yeah, elegant way to deal with limited data. Yeah, I guess
Yes,
my
yes.
other question was a little bit
Mhm.
yeah, your choice for random forest since I mean I guess you have quite some parameters to set then, right? I mean you look at these sub-basins, right? These box regions
Yeah.
to ensure that you not have these overlapping tracks, if I understood that correctly.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's basically, I guess, random forest treats every time step
Yeah. Actually,
independently, yeah, right? Where there's in
yes.
principle that's information in the evolution, which deep learning methods would be able to capture.
Uh, which kind of evolution?
Well, I mean, if I understood your method, then for each time slice, you're looking
Yes.
into these box regions, those, yes.
Yeah.
And you find points that either you know are category one,
Yeah. Basically,
maybe
in
even
each
higher
box.
categories.
Yes. The
But
idea
I
is
mean,
to.
if basically if the information from the previous time slice, that spatial temporal evolution,
Yeah.
that is in
Yeah.
principle useful information for your decision, right? And
Yeah. Actually, I tried to put some previous step, time step information as
yeah,
well. But this does not really improve any of the results because
no,
here what I did is it's a hybrid method because the occurrence is based on the random forest, but then the position is based on the deterministic position of what RFI gives me. Actually. So this is how I reconstruct my tracks. I only seek if within one box for one given time step, I have or not a cyclone anywhere in it. The position does not really matter here.
no,
And then I've determined that I have this probability is one for it's above 0.5. I go into to look into the sea level pressure field in RFI. Then I determine the position like that.
yeah,
But yeah, it's not fully based on a random forest. It's more a hybrid method actually, to be more precise, I could say.
yeah. I think that final question, then
Yeah.
Magdalena. But I was wondering. I mean, your ground truth is then the IB tracks, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How are those actually determined? I was wondering.
Actually, they have lots of uncertainty actually because um, they are actually a collection of tracks given by different meteorological centers.
Right.
So and these are based on the interpretation of satellite images. So basically, it depends on the person who actually declared that this is a cyclone or not, and the position is based on satellite images,
Yeah.
which have some uncertainties. So it is actually there are lots of uncertainty as well.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
well, this is the best we have for cyclone.
I guess it's the question whether the AI generated classification is better than the human classification.
Not sure for now. These work quite well because the AI is quite good because they can compile a lot of information. This is also why they are good for forecasting them,
Yeah.
and then better than actual numerical simulations. But in determining if this is a cyclone or not, I'm not sure they are actually better than human.
Sure. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Hallo, Thank you
Hello.
very much for the nice presentation. I had a question that was pretty similar. I also wondered why you choose a random forest, and if it could also be possible to use a spatio-temporal or a deep learning algorithm that is more spatio-temporal, for example, a convolutional neural network combined with a LSTM. And that's why I find it really interesting that you said, that you have a hybrid approach. But I have one more question on that because I'm not sure if I fully got it. So the hybrid setting in your approach is that in between you check again the mean sea level pressure field for the position of the minimum of the cyclone center. And how do you integrate that information in the random forest and back again?
Actually, what I integrate is the time series of the minimums of mean sea level pressure within the box, but I do not put any information on the position. What I seek is for one box and time step to determine if I have a cyclone or not, anywhere in it. The position does not matter for random forest at least. And once I determine I have a cyclone, I go to the physical field, the whole field, to see where it is in the field. To answer your first part, the first part of the question, there are actually deep learning approaches, CNN approaches, and LTSM also as well. And they basically use it for a binary classification as I do. But the difference is you need like HPC computing to do that. Here I can do that on a laptop very fast. And I can do all those tests. I can compute the SHAP values easily, which is not an easy task for deep learning approaches because the number of combination explodes. So it's basically too long. There are other methods, but still they are quite long. And then the objective is what I'm actually doing right now is to use it for climate models. And then given the biases you have, that you will have more issue to transfer them to transfer deep learning approaches for models because bias will be more affect more the results for AI than random forest here. I have only 20 predictors, so somehow I limit the problem life raising from my biases.
Yeah, I would have one question on that as well. So because I've been working on deep learning algorithms during my PhD and also on extratropical cyclones, so a bit different. And I, of course, also had the problem there with the imbalanced data set that you have much more training data for your non-cyclone states, of course. And you said you calculate the ratio between TC and non-TC to solve that within your random forest setting. And do you think, can you explain it?
So actually what I did is to do 100 random forest with the different ratios. So So I've tested 100 random forest for a ratio 10:1 and then 15:1, and I increased the number of zeros I included in my sample. And somehow I did not find a good way to decide which was the ratio. So I took that something somewhere in the middle. So 25 was quite okay because you had the same level of performance than the other trackers on the market, but you reach a way lower false alarm rate. So I had to decide at some point. So it's more a experimental decision than rather a very thorough and objective way to determine the ratio. But and also this ratio depends a bit on the basin as well. So it depends if you have here the two basins have like 2% of cyclonic situation. So I did 25 works quite okay. But there are other basins like in the Western Pacific, you have higher ratio, and you don't need to actually downsample the zeros. You work quite okay. So I would say if it's below 5%, you have to, and above that, you don't really need to. It doesn't change anything to your results at the end. So because it's linear, it depends what you give, the importance you give to the probability of detection and the false alarm. Are you rather focused on the probability of detection, or are you rather focused on the false alarm, or do you want both to be quite okay? So it's more like a practical decision you have to do afterwards. But usually people does not rather front up on false alarms. They don't want high false alarm rates. They rather have a lower false alarm. So usually in practice, this is the false alarm they look in priority. But yeah. But if you come up with a way to do it objectively, I'd like to know at some point, yeah. But yeah, everything is based on practice, not actually, yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree that it depends on the decision you're making, which alarm rate is more important to you. My question would have also gone in the direction of when you then apply, so when you calculate the ratio based on error 5 and then you apply it to climate model data and maybe have even frequency changes with climate change, if you think that it's sensitive to that, but probably those changes are much smaller than the ratio between TC and non-TC. So I don't know if it's a problem if your ratio between TC and non-TC changes with climate change when you apply your method to climate model data.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
right. Yeah, I get it. You mean this ratio can evolve with time, and you can imagine that this ratio is different for the future than for today. Yeah, this is the question, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For now, I work with a constant ratio, even given the climate change, because the first part is to actually be able to detect something without recalibrating my tracker. And there are problems because I have quite huge biases in the mouse, and yeah, bias correction improve the detection in the mouse, but you need to do something which is multivariate because the dependence between the predictors is also very important. I don't have anything to show here, but so far what I've seen is you need a multivariate bias correction, and somehow it's not even sufficient because I use something which is hybrid, so I need a full sea level pressure field also to be corrected. So I'm actually currently working on a way to correct a huge field, which is not really, there are no actual method to do that fast and good and quite good with good performance. So it's now I'm rather working on the bias correction actually. Yeah, it's a good complex problem because if I just correct the first test I did is to correct the predictors and just use them as corrected in the tracker, which improved the tracking ratio, the statistical better to the number of tracks, the frequencies, you improve that, but the location is a bit is not good because they don't make sense. You actually detect a track with the random forest, but the position of it is unclear because you don't have actually a minimum of pressure, which is actually a cyclone. So you have to correct the whole field as well. It's a bit complex actually, and I have those issues even with a quite fast and simple random forest. So I could not imagine the problems you will have with a deep learning approach, which actually use the whole field for every variables. It can be very difficult to overcome. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's a huge task ahead. So this is also why I choose random first, because I know I would have to bias correct some at some point, and yeah. But I'm not sure I answered your question, but
yeah, yeah, you did. Thank you very much. And yeah, I understand that there are complex problems. So good luck. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
I'm interested in your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there is any last question before we wrap up, go ahead. All right, I guess it's okay. Thank you very much, Pradeebane. Thank you all for the attendance.
For listening to me.
And I hope to see you soon. Have a nice day.
Yeah,
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeebane.
Thank you.
Bye.